creators. When it comes to your life's journey, what if the future isn't the problem, but what your mind does while you anticipate it? Tonight, you're going to meet a man on the street named DK. DK recently applied for a job he really wants, but now he's waiting. And while he waits, his mind keeps writing the ending. They're probably not going to call. I probably didn't get it. Maybe I'm not good enough. The job hasn't said no, but his mind has. And that's where tonight's experiment begins. Because what happens when we stop watching our thoughts and start watching the awareness that notices thought? What happens when we start watching awareness watch thoughts? That's why DK isn't here to find out if he gets the job, as always. DK is here as your mirror. Because we've all had moments where we're waiting for life to tell us what happens next. While our minds suffer a future that hasn't even happened yet. So tonight, we're going to find out exactly who has the power during the wait. Is it the thought? Or is it the awareness that knows thought? Keep it locked. Because tonight, the journey isn't something we're waiting to finish. The journey is the destination. Without further ado, folks, if you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You just need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent Psychology, and I tested in the real world on real people on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. Right now, you're on the Breakthrough Live, where we break down the science of healing so that you get your own breakthrough live. On today's show, we're working directly with a young man named DK right on the street. And DK, our conversation with DK tonight is going to set up our laboratory experiment. Tonight, as we enter into the Conscious Transformation Laboratory, we're going to be looking again and again and again, returning back to this awareness that notices, this awareness that watches. But tonight we are asking a slightly different question. Let's allow DK to usher us in to our evening.
Shawn channel. Essentially, what this one is, you work out a little bit. Okay. Well, there. For this game, what I need you to do is pick me up around the waist 2 times. Now, here's the part. After the second time, I'm going to ask you one question. If you can answer it correctly, I just pay you cash.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna set this down. Boom. I'm setting it right here by you. Okay. Let me know when we're on. Okay, I'm here with DK, all right, and I have 7 minutes in order to show DK the power of the mind. Here we go. All right, DK, is there anything right now in life that's kind of heavy on you at all? Like it's weighing in on you? Could be a big thing or a little thing?
job changes.
Oh, okay. You
Yeah.
just shifted work.
Trying to.
Okay.
Trying to shift to a different industry.
Okay, so you're in the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna circle back to that, but before we do, I actually need you to pick me up around the waist. Just pick me up just enough to get my feet off the ground. I
Okay.
weigh about 160 pounds.
Okay.
Just enough. All right. Boom. That's it. Okay.
Good?
That's good.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna do it one more time. This time, I'm just gonna focus a little bit. All right. Give me just a second, and go ahead and go.
Do it now?
Go ahead and try it now.
Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Was I lighter or heavier the second time?
You're heavier the second time.
Excellent. Okay, so my question is, how is that possible?
You dead weight.
But my hands are up.
Yeah, but you got loose.
Okay.
No. There's just no. You just loose. You went with the flow rather than trying to maintain. So,
Okay.
so like dead weight.
But if I'm like, if I'm my hands are up, you say I kind of go dead weight, but I'm using my arms in order to keep them up here.
Yeah.
How is that possible for somebody to make their body weight heavier? If I go dead weight, I gotta almost be like this, right? Then I would almost be slumping and all this. You know what I'm saying? But that didn't happen, right? I would stay just like this.
Maybe you did it for your lower half.
No, no.
Body control.
No. Okay, it's beautiful. Would you believe me if I said that it's actually done with the power of the mind? Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, perhaps. Yes. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to tell you that that's the way that I think of it. And so if it's possible for me to change and make my body heavier with just the mind, is it possible for you to make yourself feel lighter, peaceful, calm with just your mind, particularly when it comes to this new transition that you're in your life?
I do. I believe so.
And DK, the whole point of me being out here is just to remind you that you do have that power. And so I just want to say thank you for playing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. This is incredible. Yeah, man. And as a matter of fact, when this comes out, I want to be able to send it to you. You have an email that I could, be able to pull this up to you?
DK, thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, that small interaction, that moment with DK of just saying, okay, listen, if the mind has the power to make the body feel heavy, does the mind also have the power to help you feel light, happy? DK had that moment, that recognition that, oh, okay, even as I wait for this job to hear back about this opportunity, whether it be this opportunity or another or another or another, I never want to give so much power to an activity, an occupation, a role, a status that I begin to emotionally involve myself so deeply in its achievement that I forget the purpose of existence in the first place. And that I forget that the real locus of power, the real locus of authority, the real locus of happiness, peace, is actually just right here and right now. That moment for DK is a powerful moment that I love to remind myself of. This week, I was doing more research. And before I continue, hold on. I'm seeing folks come into the chat. Twin is saying, "Good evening, Dr. Shawn. Good evening, Twin. Welcome in. Tanya, I see you. TT, welcome in. Felicity, my love, I see you. Welcome in. Folks, tonight, I want to pull up just a bit of information. I want to pull up a little bit of this research that I've been kind of working with because when we create these moments, just like with DK just a moment ago, I started getting the hunch, and I say it every single show, that you do not need years to heal. You don't need years to work it all out, to figure it all out. Before you can be happy, you just need this one real breakthrough. And as I was kind of working with that concept this week, this new data came across my desk. And it's talking about, you know what? Let me just show you real quick. I want to just pull it up right quick just so you can see it. Let me see. Boom, boom. Let's get it. So I've been working with this what you're seeing on your screen is another basically literature review. Last week we were working directly with that concept of or that research questionnaire, the Ponk Richards mystical experience questionnaire. And I was like, okay, where else has this been used? I want to see more data. And one of the things that popped out to me this past week was this right here. I'm gonna stop right here at physiological and neural correlates of mystical experience. So anytime they're talking about mystical experience, they're talking about what we experienced last week, that experience of oneness, that experience of the dissolution of the individual self and the emergence with or union with the ultimate, with all things, right? That feeling of literal oneness. That's basically what a mystical experience is when they use it in the academic record. And so we have this concept here that's saying neural imaging research has converged on a consistent physiological signature underlying mystical type states. So here's what's interesting is that people can use two ways of arriving at the mystical experience. There's what we did last week, which is just us going into the laboratory and no drugs involved, nothing involved, just me, just you, and our eyes closed and we just do the thing. Okay, that's a non-drug induced experience. But then people also use ayahuasca, psilocybin, they'll use drugs in order to basically create the exact same effect. And so here's what's interesting, and even they use THC. Oh yeah, that research is in here too. They use THC, the psychoactive compound that's in marijuana or in cannabis. They'll use THC as well. It has less data assigned to it, but they'll also use THC in order to induce these mystical type experiences. And they talking about 10 or 15 milligrams, right? And so why is that funny? Is because there was that one time that I accidentally took 150 milligrams and basically my life changed. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day. So here's what's interesting. There's this neuroimaging research that comes out, and it says that whether somebody was on drugs or whether they were using meditation or basically conscious transformation technologies, whether they were using drugs or the non-invasive form that we were using last week, there was a reduced activity and connectivity in the brain's default mode network. That's important. What is that default mode network? The default mode network is basically a cluster of regions in the brain that control for what we call here the tiny self. Okay, and so that tiny self is essentially the ego. It is that little version of me, the one that has a name, a body, a story, right? The one that is so limited, that is so individuated in the world that it can become fearful of the world, fearful of what someone else might do to it. Because it's an individual or believes that it's an individual, a tiny me, it has to put up all of these safeguards, all of these protections against a hostile outside world. Okay, and that is the origin of fear, right? So that's what this default mode network is. It is basically the place where you're thinking about yourself as in the me, not the I, but the me. When we say tiny self, we're talking about just the individual self. We're not talking about the expansive, expanded God self within. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just the person with a name. Whoever you believe that person is and how you interface and interact with that person inside of your own mind, that is going to basically constitute the work activity of the default mode network. That's important. Okay. So now when we get back to this, we get to this landmark study Okay, and here's what's cool is that we have this comparative research that places psychedelic findings alongside non-drug mystical states. So exactly what we did last week and what we often do here on the Breakthrough Live. So a review comparing not just the drugs, not just the meditations, but also near-death experiences, psilocybin experiences, and meditative experiences of cosmic consciousness found that despite their different causal triggers, all three showed a consistent pattern of reduced neural activity in major default mode network hubs, and proposed that this DMN reduction lifts a normal filtering function of the brain, thereby broadening the capacity for expanded non-local or unified awareness, regardless of whether the trigger was pharmacological or contemplative. So what is all of this saying? Here's my little note right here. Once I read this, I was over the moon. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. So you mean that it's not just the mechanism, how it works, is that if we can reduce the brain's DMN activity, the default mode network, we basically take the limit off the brain's capacity to receive information from awareness beyond the personal self. And thereby we actually engage in this cosmic experience beyond the tiny self. I said, okay, that's slick. That's the mechanism. But then when I started finding that, make sure I pull this up. Then when I started finding that the size of the breakthrough, the size of the insight, the size of the epiphany matters more than just time in. So it's not like you, in other words, you can give someone ayahuasca and they could come off and be like, "Oh, well, I just saw some colors. Oh, I just saw some, little floaty things. I just saw a little bit of." They could come back and have such a minor experience. But the people who go in truly open, truly ready for a different kind of experience can come away with insights that are worth 10, 20 different separate ayahuasca journeys. And the same thing is true with meditation practice. That the breakthrough itself is more important than just how long you've been spending doing it. Okay, and so that's like the piece that I've been working on this week is just kind of collecting this research, finding out like what do the academics know about this? We know what we discover here, and we know that sometimes that can be far in advance of what a research paper is going to be able to develop and deploy. But I was like, let me look anyway. I want to see what they got. I want to see how they do this. And straight up, what I found was that the size of the breakthrough, the level of insight, here it is. This is the part that I want to show you. Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up for you. So we're looking at non-drug, both the contemplative, basically these are meditation mystical experiences. Okay, so the comparative review of near-death experiences, psilocybin, basically the drugs, and meditative cosmic consciousness experiences found all three types were associated with transformative, lasting increases in compassion and the pro-social motivation to help others who are suffering, alongside that reduced DMN activity that we talked about earlier, right? So there's less ego, less tiny self. This convergence suggests that the psychological and physiological benefits associated with mystical experience are not specific to the pharmacological action of any one substance, but instead reflect a broader neurobiological state, reduced self-referential and executive network activity that can be reached through multiple routes, including meditation, near-death experiences, and psychedelic administration. Okay, so my notes on this is just that, okay, so it's not about the chemical compound. because it can be the chemical, or it can be the near-death experience, or it can be what we do here that simply approximates a neurobiological state that yields itself the ultimate experience of peace, compassion, and meaning. Literally, just like we talk about on the back of the love book. That what we are actually interested in is returning to a neurobiological state that is accessible right here and right now. What does it say? What's it say on the back of the love book? This is the love book. I just want to, it's not out yet, but this is what it is right on the back, right there. I'm just going to read it for you if you haven't seen it. As a matter of fact, I might be able to read it from right here. That love is not just an emotion, but an infinite energy field humans can use to regulate our nervous systems, heal our minds, coordinate our societies, power our families, and achieve our life's purpose. Love is the fundamental essence we call reality, right? This idea that what we are talking about when we talk about love, when we talk about dipping ourselves in supreme awareness, when we talk about this unification experience, the kind that nights like tonight can lend themselves to experiencing, we are really talking about accessing a neurobiological state. And it doesn't matter how long we've been practicing or if this is our first time or if it's, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't actually matter. The state matters. And the moment that we can actually have that experience, insights begin to flow in a way that supersedes any amount of time merely just spent going through the motions. And so it's like, if we can just sit down and abide in what is actually here, not trying to be somewhere else, might we access this ultimate mode of being, which is a natural mode of being. It was this week. This week, I was thinking a lot about the teacher. I was thinking a lot about his diagnosis. The teacher, of course, is my teacher who I trained with for, I mean, over 10 years. He's a Taoist mystic. He's the one that taught me meditation. He's the one that taught me how to sense energy in the body, how to expand awareness beyond the body and discover a self that exists beyond the human form. And so we literally built our first lab back in 2011, 2011. And it's that very idea that I bring to you on the Breakthrough Live. But I was thinking about, I was just thinking about him this past week. And he was recently diagnosed with cancer, stage 4, pancreatic. And so he's around 75 years old. And so I was like, I found myself on a run today, and I was just thinking, like, were the stories all wrong? Is it that by regulating our minds, regulating our energies, we cannot prolong our lives? Now, keeping in mind that the teacher, he was told that he was going to die at, he wouldn't see the age of like 20 because of his other physical ailments. Um, so, 75 for him is like, what I'm saying? Like no males in his family lived past the age of 60, right? So So for him, you know what I'm saying, that it's like relative to his, sort of genetic situation, um, good deal. But I was thinking, I was kind of thinking the whole week, I was just kind of, just today on my run, I got up super early. I just went for my run early, went for my workout early. And like, I was just thinking like, what, like, was it all not really, like, what does it mean? If one who is so in touch with their energy in this way can still be faced with this kind of issue. And so, for a moment I was like, man, am I, stuff that I've confirmed so many times, this whole notion of energy work, this whole notion of expanding our awareness, tapping into these new dimensions of reality and making use of those new dimensions of reality. Today I was kind of like, hold on, man, you know what I'm saying? So what you mean? It's the protocols that we have in place. He and I developed, or we accessed and discovered protocols that we have in place that are meant to extend the life. They extend the longevity of the human form, like extend the life force. I'm like, so you saying the protocols ain't working? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was kind of like, what's going on here? How can this be? This is just a thought that was just popping up for me. And I was thinking like, if it could happen to him, it could happen to me. And I was like, oh no, oh dang, you know what I'm saying? Now, here we go. Here go that little voice there's that DMN network. There goes that default mode network. There goes that tiny self. There goes that mode of thinking that is based around self-preservation. The very thing that the teacher told me last week, as you saw on the show, to let go of that need, that self-preservation. So I was like, okay, what's actually causing the turmoil? What's actually causing this sensation of discomfort, this sensation of, you might call it like a background noise of anxiety, or I think anxiety is probably the best word that I can think of. Just a subtle sense of like, oh no. And so I'm asking, okay, what was actually causing this issue? And I traced the story back, I traced the ideas back. Every story begins as a thought. So then I find the thought essentially being that energy practices don't work, or you can't, there's nothing you can do to extend your life, or there's nothing, or even the idea more basic than that is, I don't want to die. Okay, there's that. I think that's kind of like the core thought that I was able to kind of, okay, this is it. Aha, this is it. That's really the now that you're looking at this, now that now that you can see it, now we can do something with it. Now we can observe it. Now we can watch it. Because it's interesting. It's like, just when you think you're overcoming something, we get another opportunity to revisit that certain something that we just thought we had overcome. You dig what I'm saying? And so it's like, if you have truly overcome it, then it's not gonna hold you up too much. But I like to take these opportunities just to revisit this question. What is this thought? What happens when I'm aware of my thought? And more importantly, what happens when I'm aware of the awareness that is itself aware of thought? When we talk about awareness on this show, we are talking about the ground and the firm foundation of reality. We are talking about the notion that awareness itself is all we really know about reality, right? All we actually know about reality is what we can see, hear, taste, touch, feel, smell, the perceptions. And you could also say think, the six perceptions, the six senses, thought being the sixth sense. But without awareness, even those six senses would not exist for us. So, in other words, you can lose your vision and still be aware that you are blind, right? So, there's still awareness even though the vision is gone. You can lose your sense of taste and still be aware that you've lost your sense of taste. You can lose your sense of hearing and still be aware that you can't hear nothing. You dig what I'm saying? So, the awareness remains even though the perception disappears. Perception belonging to a human brain set, a human organism, a functioning body mind, awareness being unitary of one substance. We call it unitary because we know that it is true for everyone that if awareness disappears, so too does reality. Therefore, we say that, okay, awareness and reality, they go together, which makes awareness and reality one thing. And because it would be an act of speculation to suggest otherwise, to say, oh, no, 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 we can verify that there is a reality beyond our awareness. I'm like, okay, well, when you verify it, it takes awareness in order to verify it. You dig what I'm saying? Like there's no getting around this. So rather than make a split in reality between ourselves and the world, we say, no, 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 the two are actually one if you look closely. So I'm always looking at that. I want to know about this awareness. And I want to know about this awareness as it observes my own thinking. Don't you notice that every thought about the future, every sense of anxiety about the future, it stems from a story, but that story is rooted in a thought. There cannot be a story without thought. There cannot be a story without thinking. Every single joint. Which means if we are able to capture and catch, observe our thinking, observe our thoughts as they appear, we can have a different relationship with our ideas about the future and, of course, with the emotions and psychological ramifications that those ideas would birth. And so tonight, that's where our lab experiment is really going. That's where our lab experience is really going. Okay, I'm seeing some folks come through in the room. Other twin just finally made it in. He's saying, good evening, Dr. Shawn. Good evening, good evening. Okay, good evening, all beautiful souls. Okay, so here we go. You have to be aware to be aware. Correct. You have to be aware to be aware. Zero Pure 3, I'm not sure. I'm trying to get, so you're saying to note the experience does not guarantee a life of continuous love. So I want you to say more because I want to know exactly what you're saying and also what experience. Because I think there's so much there, but I have to know exactly what you mean because I don't want to be going off on a tangent and then that's not what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So put exactly what you're saying in the chat because if it's what I think it is, then I think it could be I think it's a great, I think it's a great point to actually pull up. Oh, unless you're saying, okay, to have an experience of the unitary force behind all existence, to have that mergence with God, that unification experience. You're saying if that does not guarantee a life of continuous love. Mm, let's define terms really quickly. When I say love, I mean the unification. Love means unification. When we say I love you, I love somebody, we're saying I feel one with that person, right? We're talking about the dissolution of the separate self, the dissolution of the tiny self. So when that DMN network, that default mode network starts to tone itself down, we're more likely to experience that oneness, not because the oneness all of a sudden shows up, but because it becomes obvious. To your point, having the experience and integrating that experience into every single micro moment of your life, those are two different things for sure. What I find is that the more that we can have that experience, the more we can be reminded of that, the easier it is to abide in it. The easier it is to abide in it until our careers, our work, our family life, everything starts to become more and more and more aligned with that love. When I say love, I'm talking about the feeling. You feel it. That feeling that you feel when you say, "Okay, I love my baby, I love my child, I love." That's the real one. That's what I'm talking about. It's just that most people they attach it only exclusively to the child, not recognizing that it is ever present. And so again, yes, you're right. Like having the experience is one thing, being able to constantly bring yourself back to it, to follow no other God except for the supreme ultimate. I mean, that's what the whole game is about. That's what the whole Earth School is about. That's what the whole thing is about being able to actually experience and take responsibility for your life experience by bringing it under the dominion of love. You understand? And so tonight, it's like sometimes we just get those thoughts, those little thoughts that pop in, those little thoughts that pop into the head, and we can't quite shake them. They start to strike at a chord in us that feels like I can't get rid of this thought. I can't get rid of its ramifications, of the fear that's attached to it. So I wanna get into our lab tonight, and I want to take a deeper look at what the nature of thought is, and also what the nature of awareness that watches thought is. Because it's inevitable that somebody is going to say something that's going to make you fearful of the future if we haven't first addressed the very origin point of fear itself. If we haven't first addressed that origin point, it's only a matter of time before something happens that makes you say, "Oh no, not this, not the impossible, not this." You know what I'm saying? Like this. So when we take the time on nights like tonight to actually sit back and say, "You know what is the nature of all this? What exactly is happening?" And what am I holding on to that I could let go of? Grabbing onto a thought so heavily, so grabbing onto an image of the future so tightly that I forget that the point of today is today. Not to get to some extra point. The point of today is today, which I had to write down in my journal this week. The point of today is today. So I think it's important to get to the lab tonight. And as we do, okay, so Pure Straight saying, I don't know if, I'm just gonna call you Pure for tonight. Put your name in the actual chat so I can know your name. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta be calling people Pure 087. Okay, I have had the experience you're saying, yeah, and I'm still struggling with hate and other negative emotions. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, since I have had the experience, I've been finding myself chasing it ever since, and it's causing suffering. Excellent. Okay. So this person is saying, basically this person is saying like they've had the experience of that unification moment, but they which you could call, typically people call that the enlightenment moment. I think this is fairly important. They call that the enlightenment moment. You realize that, oh wait, there's more to life than just the physical forms. There's more to life than just the, you know what I'm saying, just what we can see and taste and perceive like with our human senses. Okay. And there, which means that there would also be more to me than just what we can see, taste, and touch with our human senses. Okay, cool. That's called the enlightenment moment. Self-realization is where we take the understanding of this enlightenment moment. We take the understanding of this unification, of this love form of saying, wait a minute, if there's more to me, if all things are one, then wouldn't that mean that at some point I would live every single life that there is? And if I'm the one that is looking from behind every single person's eyes, then if when I do for somebody else, I'm doing it for me. When I do for someone else, I'm doing it for me. Okay. Damn, well then maybe I can drop certain kinds of habits and bring my life more into alignment with taking care of myself because all of it is myself. That's a different relationship with the planet. That's a different relationship with other people. That's a different relation. That part, we call that self-realization. So the enlightenment moment, that is your flagship. Oh my gosh. Just that is profound. And some people only need just the one, and then, you know what I'm saying? They cool. But bringing that enlightenment moment into alignment so that it begins to condition the rest of your life experience, that is the path of self-realization. And I would say that that's not like a one-time deal. That's the Rupert Spira. I love him. He says, you know, listen, actually, it takes forever. Actually, it goes on forever. Actually, there's always a new level of self. There's always a new level of depth to go. So that is forever. Even if you 10x, 100x to other people, they're like, oh my God, this person is so happy, so complete, so like, you know, that there's God is still showing you more. When I say God, I don't mean guy in the sky. I mean that you are still uncovering the joy of being. It's still unfolding for you, no matter how advanced you get. That's a whole different deal. And a part of what we do here is each of us is walking that journey. And so what we get to do here is walk it together. And so that's a cool, yes, a good way to say it. Um, I get that the negative emotions are par for the course. But again, we come back to, what is a negative emotion even? Is it connected with a negative thought? Is a negative emotion connected with a negative story? Absolutely. Is a negative story connected with a negative thought? Absolutely. Okay, so what if we were to investigate thought as it appears? And what if we were to investigate the awareness that notices the thought in the first place as it appears? What happens? What might we discover? What might we discover? What might we discover? So, folks, with that, I think it is time to actually head into our laboratory. In tonight's lab, you'll want to find a comfortable place to be, someplace quiet, someplace where we can turn within. We are about to go to the place where no amount of research is going to be able to take us. We're looking for the answers that we can't find in a book. We're looking for the answers that we can't just have Google punch up for us because we're looking for the answers that only we can see for ourselves. So we have to investigate for ourselves. As we do, now would be a time to find a great chair. If you're sitting, you are seated at the edge of your chair, hands in your lap, feet firmly planted on the floor, the back is straight. The teacher always taught me to imagine an invisible string hanging from the ceiling, attaching into the crown of your head and holding your entire body up. This visualization simply helps to keep your back straight throughout our session tonight. Helps for energy flow, blood flow, and oxygen flow throughout the body. If you are standing, feet shoulder width apart, toes slightly turned inward, hips tucked underneath, back straight. You may still imagine that string coming from the top of the ceiling, attaching into the crown of your head and holding your entire body up all by itself. A straight back simply helps increase focus, concentration, and allows for the session to flow much more smoothly. If you were laying down flat on your back, hands by your side, and your chin slightly tilted upward, putting your spine in alignment. In all positions, tongue goes to the roof of your mouth, the tongue in this position, with the tip of your tongue touching the roof of your mouth, simply connects the energy sectors of the brain, the head, the neck, with the torso and the rest of the body. Without further ado, let's head into our lab right now. Take one deep breath in with me. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. At this time, you may close your eyes. Sitting with eyes closed, resting with eyes closed. See if you can become aware of the darkness behind your eyes. As you witness and observe the darkness behind your eyes, ask yourself the question, am I aware? See that the answer is yes. As you rest, aware that you are aware, notice the presence of any thought that appears to you. Notice how thought simply appears in awareness. As thought appears to you, you do not need to change the thought, to push the thought away, or to try and escape the thought. Simply allow thoughts to appear as if they were clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. Should a thought begin to claim too much of your attention, should a thought begin to carry you away, simply return to the question, am I aware? This question alone is enough to recenter you back in awareness, as awareness, observing thought. Am I aware? Return to the awareness that is aware of all thought appearing to you now. Am I aware? As you ask that question, notice awareness, notice itself. Am I aware? See that that question makes you immediately aware that you are aware now. As this sky of awareness, observe thought come and observe thoughts go. You are not to cling on to any thought, however enticing. Am I aware? Notice that awareness does not come and go. Thoughts change, but awareness is ever so. Am I aware? Abide here. Notice how thoughts wish to claim your attention, but also notice that awareness is watching the entire dance. Remain as this awareness. Am I aware? Am I aware? when a thought begins to successfully claim your attention, what do you notice about that thought? What do you notice about the promise it is making to you? What do you notice about the energy it carries? Observe now. Am I aware? Fight no thought. Simply observe the thought. Am I aware? That question brings you back to the awareness that observes thought. Am I aware? As you observe thoughts, what do you notice about the awareness that notices thought? Does it come and go? Look now. Is awareness a thought, or is awareness present even when thought is not? Notice if you were only this awareness existing across all time and space, how would you then look at your thoughts? Am I aware? Am I aware? Notice this awareness that notices all thought. Notice how the thoughts that seem to claim the most attention, that seem to take you away, are the ones that feel so personal, like they relate to the tiny me. See if you can notice that personal feeling to those seductive thoughts, remaining purely as awareness. Am I aware? Remaining as awareness, you can observe thought without being taken away. Am I aware? Should you encounter the experience of this personalized feeling, this sense that this thought is about a tiny me, simply observe that feeling too, as if it were a cloud passing through the sky of your awareness, as if it too were a cloud passing through the sky of awareness. You do not need to move the feeling nor the thought, just like you do not need to move a cloud passing across the sky. It simply passes on its own. Am I aware? 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 Do not interfere. Simply return to the question, am I aware? What do you notice about this awareness? Does it come and go? What do you notice about these thoughts and feelings that this awareness is aware of? Do they come and go? Am I aware? Am I aware? Notice that at the heart of all suffering, there is a thought, a single thought. place awareness on this thought and discover that thought is just thought. A cloud passing through the sky. Am I aware? Take a moment before we return and ask yourself, where am I? Where are you right now? Lost in thought, or simply abiding in awareness, in reality. When you are ready, bring yourself back to the darkness behind your eyes. Take one inhale in with me. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Folks, I'm interested in knowing what your experience was with tonight's laboratory experiment. For me, oh, tonight was a doozy. Oh man, I was like, mm, it's like I could abide as that awareness, yes. But then I noticed that as I'm paying attention to what's happening inside of the mind, it's like it started to feel suffocating at one point. Like not particularly noisy, but just in the sense of like looking for an answer, looking for an answer, looking for an answer, looking for the nature of thought to reveal itself to me at a deeper level than I've ever experienced before. That became like that subtle parameter became suffocating tonight for me. And you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like this, if you can imagine being stuck in a cave and somebody, shouting into the cave and you're just hearing the echoes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, and yet what I noticed is that, am I aware? Coming back to the awareness of awareness itself, it was like a reset, like a fresh start. I started noticing Let me put it this way. I'm gonna grab the breakthrough board. I started noticing that like there is an unconscious habit. If you could think of these four fingers as the mind and as like thoughts, emotions. It's like I could see how my own mind has a tendency to want to just like boop, boop, boop. It'll just deploy. Boop, boop. It just deploys the thought, just deploys the emotion. But I can see there's a force working behind it. There's a it is as if if you ever notice like your hand, your sometimes your foot is tapping or your leg is shaking and you don't even notice it until someone says something about it, then you notice that, oh yeah, there was some unconscious shaking there. Like your toe is just tapping on the floor, or it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like your foot is just kind of jittery. Your leg is jittery. And you don't even notice until you notice. It was like that. Like I could see like, okay, there was these just various boop, 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 boop. They're just the thoughts just get deployed. The emotions just get deployed. They follow the thoughts. Thought gets deployed, the emotions get deployed, thoughts get deployed, the emotion gets deployed. And it's just happening unconsciously. But when I came back to this, am I aware of awareness? Two things. One, I saw that one, I could become aware of this unconscious habit. And I started to get the sense that I could be unaffected by it. It was as if the more attention that was going to awareness itself, the less attention there was to being caught up in the thought and emotion. But the second thing I noticed is that every all of the sensations, the suffocating feeling, all of that could be traced always back to a single thought. Tonight, the single thought was, I need an answer. When I could observe the thought that was underpinning any emotion and just observe it with clear awareness, the thought loses its power, the emotion begins to dissipate, and it just, like smoke clearing out of a clarified room. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, no problem. I know that that session went just a little longer than we typically go, but I was really in there, like looking to go to another level, looking to see something that I hadn't seen before. And for me, that little boop, 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 it's as if like you have a tick in your hand, like you know what I'm saying, like a little tick, and you don't even notice that it's you. Much like how a baby must feel in the womb when it's scratching on its own face and doesn't even notice that the hand that's scratching, that sensation that it's feeling is itself its own hand. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. That these thoughts, they just get deployed. These emotions just get deployed. But I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. There is a part of me that is behind the deployment. There is a part of me that is behind the deployment of any thought or emotion, any thought or feeling. This awareness is noticing that there is something pushing the buttons. You know what I'm saying? Something is pushing the buttons. I noticed that something was pushing the buttons. And when I became aware of awareness, it was like the hand kind of froze. The more attention that was going to awareness, the less attention there was going to this invisible hand that was pushing these buttons. The buttons of emotion, the buttons of thought, the buttons of anxiety, of anger, of frustration. All of those feelings were coming up, especially as I felt like, oh man, I'm searching for this answer. I'm searching for this answer. I'm not really finding it. Oh man, this is getting a little long. But nevertheless, there was that feeling, that sensation of that seeing that, wait, there's something behind here. that these thoughts are being deployed so unconsciously, and yet there is a part of me that is existing in that unconscious deployment, that is responsible for that unconscious deployment. Beyond blame and all this, it's just, I'm noticing that there's a part of me that's behind all of this deployment. The cool insight was that once I could identify the single thought that was behind any particular emotion, so be it frustration or any um, a sense of stress or any sense of whatever the moment was in that experiment, I could see that there was always a single thought that was responsible for this emotion. That was a helpful reminder because it's like, oh wait, yes, and I always know the thought if I'm being honest. Like the thought is very it's very clear as long as I'm being honest. I'm not trying to self-deceive. If I'm being honest, I can find the thought. The thought is clearly aware. I'm sitting here aware of all the thoughts passing, so I can see which one it is. And it's like I can see which thought is basically a storm cloud. It's impregnated with all of this personalized me, all of this tiny me. It comes with that personalized energy, as if, oh no, this thought is for real. I need to pay attention to this one. That feeling, that sense that, oh, this thought is somehow in regard to my safety, and therefore it deserves more. It deserves my attention right now. I started seeing those kinds of thoughts appearing. Much like a storm cloud is kind of pregnant with all of this rainwater, it was like these thoughts were pregnant with all of this ego energy, all of this emotional energy, and that it carried sort of a gravity unto itself, so willing to pull my attention away. You understand? And yet being able to witness the thought and of course its attendant emotions, but the thought itself, the emotions are what's bothering me, but the thought that is sort of the parent to these emotions, to notice that thought itself, to recognize the thought as just a thought. It's ephemeral. It's just a collection of symbols. Okay. Oh, well, once the thought is neutralized, its attendant emotions also get neutralized. They in time fall away. I noticed that. I started smiling at one point during the because that was the moment when I was noticing that, oh yeah, wait, the thought is almost the mother of all of these lesser emotions, of all of these feelings. The emotions are the thing that's giving me the issue, but the true thought, the one that is actually the parent of these emotions, is the one that if I place the awareness on and recognize it for what it is, it loses its power and it becomes just like a cloud passing. So that is fascinating. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, twin saying return to your root, retiring to self. Other twin saying there is a numbness of freedom for me. I'm guessing my mind doesn't want to be uncomfortable, but yes, definitely a change. Okay, say more, twin. I'm super interested in that. Okay, I threw your lab coats in there. Excellent, excellent. There's a numbness of freedom. Mm. Yeah, for me it was like I mean, it's like once I noticed the thought behind the issue, there's no issue. But it's almost like, man, that noticing the awareness itself allowed me to step back from the thoughts long enough so as not to get so pulled along with them. And in doing so, I was also noticing this unconscious habit for deploying thoughts and their attendant emotions. yeah, so it's like, it's like, okay, so what do you do with this? But I also felt like there's a balance to this awareness. It's like, okay, if you like me trying to be aware of awareness as a means for self-protection, that started becoming like a headache. It was as if the awareness had to be choiceless. When I ask, am I aware? There is a choicelessness there. Even as I'm talking right now, you say, am I aware? It's like, well, yeah, duh. There's a choicelessness. There's a choiceless awareness. That is the awareness that I had to stay as if I wanted to appropriately observe a thought without getting caught up in it. But the moment I had an agenda with the awareness, the moment that I was like, okay, I'm gonna be aware of awareness so that I can get out of this suffering. Now there was an expectation attached to what the awareness should be able to do for a film. You understand? There was an expectation attached to what the awareness should be able to do for me. And so now that becomes a chain in a sense. In other words, in order for this to be effective, that awareness must stay choiceless. It cannot be a kind of awareness that I am attempting to do. It cannot be a kind of awareness that I am effortfully attempting to execute on. Because awareness don't require all that, right? It's aware right now, no matter what I do. Even if somebody were to come and knock me out, I'm still aware of the dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like the awareness doesn't go. Even if I'm in deep sleep, I'm still aware of no dreams. I'm aware that I am not having any content of experience. So regardless, there's an awareness of either dreams or no dreams. There's an awareness that something has happened or not happened. But the point is that so the awareness is choiceless. If I try and turn it into another object to deploy against my problems as if it is some shout that I'm trying to, spray on a stain and wipe out, you know what I'm saying? Like as if it is dish soap I'm trying to put on a dish so I can clean that boy off. Mm, I saw that there was a limit to conceptualizing awareness as a ego formula. Oh, this shit getting deep tonight. Hey, we about to go a little late. You know what I'm saying? I already know. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going late tonight. I'm this the kind of work I can't get anywhere else in the world. So I'm gonna be here. Like there's a limit to trying to conceptualize awareness as if it is a independent tool that we can wield rather than understanding that it is the choiceless self, right? If I try and wield it like a sword that I can pick up and put down, then I notice that I'm never really dealing with awareness. I'm dealing with my thought about it. I'm dealing with my thinking. However sophisticated the thinking is, I'm dealing with my thinking about awareness, about what it should be able to do. And attached to that is a subtle expectation of what this awareness should be able to do for me emotionally. And if it fails, then I find myself in a intellectual feedback loop, having a flood of thoughts that I'm entertaining about what's going on, what's happening. Am I doing something wrong? Is this my ego? Blah, 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 you know what I'm saying? And now there becomes that echo, that noise, that cacophony of foolishness that starts to sound off because what's happened, I've taken a divine experience and tried to objectify it to the point where I am working now with an object of a symbol of divinity rather than with the true source. I'm no longer at my root. I'm no longer in awareness. I'm in my thinking about awareness. That's subtle. which is to say that if awareness is to work, it must remain that choiceless awareness. Whoa. If awareness is to work, it must remain choiceless. It cannot be this. We get into these meditative states, and if we're not careful, thoughts about awareness will take the place of awareness. You see this with pretty much every religion on earth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, thoughts about God take the place of an actual relationship with God, if you prefer, if you like that term, the God term. Obviously, God is not something that stands outside of us. So to even say you have a relationship is bizarre, but it's in, in language you understand what I'm getting at. Right? There's a difference between operating with and within divinity, or you could say with and within clarity, seeing reality appropriately, and seeing our beliefs and calling it reality. There's a difference between seeing reality appropriately and seeing our beliefs and just calling that reality, calling that the truth. So yes, there's an issue with trying to pick up awareness, use it as a weapon, and then put it back down. It's not. That is a formulation. That is a conceptualization, an articulation of thought, not of the actual experience. That is an articulation of thought about awareness rather than the actual experience of awareness. And I noticed that when I got into my thoughts about awareness during the meditation and masqueraded that as if it was the awareness itself, that's when the issues started happening. That's when there was all this emotional sort of noise going on. Like you know what I'm saying? I started feeling like I was suffocating in my own chest, which is weird. When I get into the aware state, when I'm just, I say even state is when I'm resting as that choiceless awareness, it is as if my body becomes transparent and everything becomes just one continuous experience. The entire world, everything is that oneness experience, you understand? But the moment I start trying to conceptualize awareness and then treat that conceptualization as if it is the truth rather than simply remaining aware, that's when the trouble starts. So that's fascinating. And it's such a small turn. It's so easy to go from, okay, I'm resting as awareness, I'm abiding as awareness, to no, I'm just abiding as my thoughts about awareness. I'm resting in a belief about awareness, as opposed to just remaining aware. Awareness is true. It's the fact, like this experience is not, you would not be able to experience anything without this awareness. You understand? So we know that it is true. It is a fact, but somehow trying to create the conceptualization of awareness as a weapon that I can wield on my own thoughts and feelings. It's not the fact, catch what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that is not true. I'm just saying that the type of awareness that is required in order to achieve the sort of freedom from emotional duress is a choiceless awareness. It is the awareness that is ever present. It doesn't come and go. It is choiceless and therefore requires no conceptualization. It only is an abidance. It's just a, ever present allowance. We are simply returning our minds back to this choiceless experience, this choiceless awareness, and allowing for thoughts to simply come and go within this sky of awareness, as we call it. But the moment I try and turn it into something, it's so subtle. I might try, like my thoughts might try and turn awareness into a visual expanse. And that can be helpful for a moment. And then it's time to let that moment go and just abide as the choiceless awareness. Earlier tonight, Pure was just saying that they have a hard time having this enlightenment experience, but then they go back into the world and now they have those emotions again, and it doesn't, they have negative emotions again, they have hateful emotions again. They don't really feel like that oneness experience guarantees a life of consistent, ever flowing love. You understand? That experience of love, that experience of unity. And so, one of the issues that I can see being the problem is the one that I just experienced just now in the lab, which is the experience of bringing a tacit and subtle expectation onto the spiritual formula, taking a tacit expectation and mapping it onto our experience of reality, saying that, hey, look, this oneness has to always feel like this. Or, you know what, I'm dealing with this, uncomfortable emotion, and where's that oneness I've been looking for? I'm gonna try and get my way back to that so I can somehow bypass this emotion so I don't have to deal with it. You dig what I'm saying? Like, if we carry an expectation, even a tacit one, into our practice, what can happen is we start trying to force the practice to be our solution rather than recognizing that the purpose of the practice was simply to recognize clear seeing, simply to recognize that there is a choiceless awareness and it is never caught up in a thought. It doesn't follow a thought, it witnesses a thought. If we come in with an expectation, we can't even recognize that choiceless awareness. We can acknowledge that it's present. We can say, oh, yeah, I got this awareness, but like, I'm saying, now I want it to get to work. You know what I'm saying? You're on the clock now. And that very expectation creates more emotional turmoil. It creates more energetic frustration. That's what I noticed tonight in myself. The subtle expectation creates more of an issue when we map it on to practice. This doesn't mean we can't become skillful with thoughts and emotions. It just means that in order to abide in this, in order to access the full power of this choiceless awareness, there must be a surrender, a letting go. Because if you take those expectations into even on something as subtle as just your experience of being aware of your own consciousness, you can jam up your energy. Jam up your, start supplying thoughts with all kinds of fuel and start entering into that unconscious habit of boop, 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 where the buttons are getting pressed and you're the one doing it, but not recognizing that you're the force behind these thoughts and emotions. That was my experience tonight. Seeing, I'm seeing that. Oh, wait, I'm behind this. I don't quite know how, but you know what I'm saying, I'm behind these thoughts deploying in this way. I'm pressing a button somewhere, and it's my involvement with the thought is pressing a button, and it's continuing to beget more, but more thoughts in sequence, in order. And those thoughts come with attendant emotions that begin to traffic my inner system and make me feel like kind of bogged down. Hmm. The more that expectation is there, the more occupation there is with our ideas about the truth rather than the truth itself. The more expectation is there, the more occupation there is with our ideas and beliefs about what is true rather than just our clear seeing of the truth. You understand? Hmm. Indeed, that expectation is the reason behind all fear. If there's a scary future, the expectation we're bringing to our understanding of reality is the reason that that future remains scary. And so it's ties right into our conversation tonight. Okay, let's get to our actual principle, pattern, and path for the evening. I want to make sense of this before we jump up out of here tonight. Twin is saying it's almost like once you know you're aware, something kind of wants to pull you back for some reason. Mhm. Yeah. And when we say pull you back, it's almost like we're talking about the very birth of a personalized thought, a thought that carries so much personal identity, so much of me as an individual that it just feels like it's so germane to who I am that it begins to make me leave the path of clear seeing, of just being in choiceless awareness, of seeing reality objectively, and instead, including inner reality, seeing inner and outer reality without the emotional disturbance of negative feelings, and without the distracted disturbance of overly positive feeling. You do what I'm saying? It's just awareness. Okay. Let's get to the principal pattern in the path. I do believe something else is waiting for us. Here we go. Okay. I've got our breakthrough board right here. And I like to teach from principle because if I can understand the principle behind a thing, then I can find my own path forward regardless of whatever else I know. And so tonight we're asking again, our question is what happens when awareness is aware of thought? What happens when what happens when we start watching awareness watch thoughts? And is there a principle? Is there a principle of the evening? Twin saying love it, love it, love it. What you love, twin? It's like what happens when we stop watching thoughts and start watching awareness watch thoughts? What is our principle for the evening? In order to find the principle, I must turn within. Okay, I'll tell you this. What's coming through for me is that, typically we like to do the principle, the pattern, then the path. Remember last week we had to do the path, then we came back, we went the path, the pattern, then the principle. It was the first time ever in Breakthrough Live history. Tonight, I'm thinking we got to start with the pattern first. The pattern is what is the trouble? How do we get into this mess in the first place? Like, how do we get into trouble in the first place with the mind? And the thing that keeps popping up for me is this right here. It's this right here. Mm. All right, I'm gonna say it like this, because just because we just because we gotta say something. Okay, expectation traffics the mind. This is the pattern for the night. The reason that we get in trouble in the first place, the reason that we have this fearful anticipation of the future when the future looks not promising. We get this situation about expectation about how things ought to go or what a practice, a person, a purpose, an activity, a role ought to be doing for us. And the problem is that expectation, it traffics the mind. When I say traffics the mind, it like burdens the mind, causes us to get off the path of choiceless awareness. So we're no longer seeing reality clearly. We're looking for anything that's going to verify, validate, or otherwise correct our expectation. No longer looking at reality. Now we're looking with our expectations about reality. And the thing about expectation is that this joint is completely fabricated by thought, which is how it's able to traffic the mind. It's just a collection of thoughts about how things ought to be that itself becomes a distraction. So when I say traffics the mind, I could even just say, that expectation, let's get it. Can y'all see that? That expectation distracts the mind. Let's see if I can work with that just a little more. I like this. Hang on. Oh, I could do it like that. That's cool. All right. Expectation distracts the mind. See if I can get it right there. This is important. Worth saying again. Expectation distracts the mind. That's the pattern for the night. Is that even expectation on what awareness should do for us? An expectation, if you don't like the word awareness, expectation on what God should be doing for us. Expectation on what reality ought to be, on what the future ought to be, on what this role ought to be, on what that job ought to be, on what the business ought to be, on what the family ought to be. You feel me? That expectation distracts the mind. And that occupied mind, that distracted mind, becomes the only barrier to not, it becomes the only barrier to returning to choiceless awareness. And we need that choiceless awareness in order to see reality at all, let alone clearly. You dig what I'm saying? Like, you need that. So, this expectation just becomes a lot of built up, mismanaged energy, wasted energy. It's a distraction. It's a distraction, overburdening the attention with thoughts that do not help you see reality clearly. So that's the pattern for the night. That's what keeps popping up for me. That's the pattern. Okay, so what's that principle though? Tonight we're talking about what happens when I watch thoughts, but more specifically, what happens when I watch awareness watch thoughts? What happens when I watch awareness watch thoughts? What's the principle? Oh, there it is. Okay, it just came. Okay. I like trying to write this before I forget. Okay. Okay, dang, what was it? Just had it. Ah, okay, that's it. Okay, here we go. Say it. The principle for the night is that awareness must remain choiceless. When I say choiceless, we could put it in quotes. The idea with this choiceless awareness is that it doesn't require any energy or effort for you to be aware. You're aware all day. When you go to sleep, you're still going to be aware. There's going to be awareness all day. Do not confuse awareness with perception. You can close your eyes and no longer see, but you are aware that you are no longer seeing. You feel me? You can go to sleep and no longer be aware of this world or even of your human identity. You could be a duck or something, but you're still aware that of being in a pond or whatever it is that is happening in your dream duck self. Okay. So the awareness is choiceless. That is important because if we come to that awareness and start mapping onto it expectations about how it ought to behave in order to make us feel emotionally good, well, now we're no longer dealing with awareness. We're dealing with our ideas about awareness, our expectations about awareness. That awareness must remain choiceless, which is to say that we are never looking for, we allow awareness to be itself. We come back to that question, am I aware? Yes. The reason that's important is because it just wakes you up to the fact that, yeah, that's what's happening. Naturally, it becomes apparent and evident that if this awareness was here before a thought could emerge and is here after a thought ends, then clearly the awareness is superior to any particular thought or any emotion that it has, and that knowledge alone must be enough. Because when we go in and start trying to say, okay, I'm going to use this awareness in order to make myself feel better, it is true that if you can place attention, choiceless awareness onto a thought, it neutralizes that thought. But there's a thin line between understanding that fact and trying to use awareness, trying to conceptualize awareness as a weapon. And so trying to map onto it an expectation of what it ought to be doing. That awareness must remain choiceless in order for it to be real. Why? Because awareness is choiceless. You didn't choose, you didn't opt in for it, you can't opt out of it. You cannot bring it into, you cannot disgrace it, you cannot aggrandize it, you cannot heighten it. Awareness is going to be aware. You can heighten perception, you can see more stuff with microscopes and telescopes and like, okay, cool. But you cannot heighten the awareness that sees, the awareness that notices the seeing of things. You understand? So that awareness must be choiceless if it is to be transformative. If we are to allow it to transform our thoughts and the emotions that those thoughts birth, that awareness must remain choiceless. If we come to it with an expectation, we're no longer dealing with awareness. Now we're dealing with an idea about awareness and trying to use and deploy that idea as if it could ever be a solution. When it itself is just the thoughts. Now you're trying to fight thoughts with thoughts? No, 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 no. We use awareness. It's literally the difference between being present and just thinking you're present because your eyes are closed. Or because you're looking real intense. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between being present and just thinking that you're present. We don't want to get into the thoughts about being present. We just want to be present. And we notice that that presence is always. And so it is therefore choiceless. That aware presence is always, and it must remain choiceless if it is to be transformative. That's the principle for the evening. Okay. Okay. All right. What's the pattern? I'm sorry. We have the principle, which is that awareness must remain choiceless. We have the pattern, which is that expectation, it begins to create distractions for the mind. The distracted mind has a difficult time returning to true reality, has a difficult time returning to choiceless awareness, has a difficult time with seeing reality clearly. Okay. And so what's the path forward? How do we get up out this mess? Let me write it before I forget it. Interestingly, this gets to what Pure was just asking earlier. The path forward. Once you have that unitary experience, and naturally in tonight's experiment, I started getting that. I always get that. Like I'm always going to get that sort of like once the body becomes hollowed out, and maybe because I do this, you know what I'm saying? Like I obviously do it more and more and more and more and more every day. It's like, yeah, it becomes that unification experience. That's great. But even still, even in that, how do you say, okay, how do we take that unification experience and allow it to begin to condition our thinking and our actions and our behavior and our daily activities in such a way that we bring everything into alignment with the ultimate reality, with the divine self, with God, with whatever the terms are that you love, with nature, whatever the term is for you that you really dig, with that supreme ultimate, with the Tao, or as I call it on this show, with love, the supreme ultimate. How do you bring all this together and make it so that it's not just a one-off experience that you had when you pop some psilocybin, but you instead integrated this understanding into your very habits of being, your very habits of behaving, of thinking, of seeing, feeling, of doing. All right. Here's what I wrote down. We gotta let awareness be choiceless. We gotta let awareness be choiceless. And what I mean by that is if we get into a situation where we're starting to feel like, oh wait, this awareness, I want something out of this. There is a thought that is present that is saying, oh, if I can just be this awareness, if I can just feel this one particular sensation, then I can escape this fear or this pain. That's a trap. It's fine to have the idea in the first place so that we know, okay, yes, we're going to pick up a practice. You're going to use kits. We're going to do our training. We're going to come into the lab. We're going to, like, that's fine. But at a point, there must be surrender. At a point, there must be a surrender unto this aware experience. And the beautiful part is that it doesn't require any energy. It doesn't require any energy to recognize that this awareness is, and to allow it to do the seeing for you. When the thoughts appear, allowing that awareness to do the seeing for you. Because what happens is we see that, okay, you might have this thought and the thought might have an emotion attached to it. The thought might be birthing an emotion, like a thought about DK tonight, not getting the job, or a thought about uh, a health scare. Well, that thought and the emotion that it produces have a birth date and a death date in awareness. They come and they go, right? But this awareness is ever present. But the only way that statement can carry any power is if it is self-recognized. The only way that statement carries any actual power to actually transform your behavior is if it is self-recognized. You got to be the one to see it, which means that awareness must be the one to reveal it to you. Because the more that we go in with this, amorphous concept of what awareness is, and we try and I've got all kinds of images in my mind for how I conceptualize awareness as a substance and all this, but it's not a substance. And if I get lost in my thoughts about awareness rather than simply abiding in awareness, I get distracted. And the negative emotions simply compound because they not only do they not go anywhere, but I'm adding to them by being like, how come y'all ain't going nowhere? I'm now adding frustration to frustration, anxiety to fear, trepidation to the future. You dig what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, and there's that noise I was talking about earlier. That noise, that convoluted noise that can start to appear for me when I'm conceptualizing about awareness rather than simply actually remaining in choiceless awareness. So the path forward tonight is let that awareness be choiceless. And in order to do that, chant, you're going to have to learn how to surrender to that thing. You're going to have to learn how to surrender to that choiceless awareness and allow it to reveal reality to you rather than coming with your expectations about what it should be doing. Abide as this choiceless awareness and see what it does. Ooh, all right, that's a big one. Somebody let me know that's making sense. Put it in the chat because I know one thing. It may be getting late for y'all. Y'all may have things to do, but I know somebody has a special message for you before you turn it in tonight. Yes, that's right. Hey, yo, B, it's Breakthrough Turtle. Breakthrough Turtle comes through every single week on that divine turtle time. And this week is no exception. Breakthrough Turtle is saying that he has a special message for us. Put your turtles in the chat. Breakthrough Turtle, go ahead and talk to him one time. In order to get the breakthrough from Breakthrough Turtle first, just like ourselves, we got to first break him open. Ah. Okay, see, Breakthrough Turtle got the little thing in there. Mm. Thank you, Breakthrough. He's saying you got something special for us. All right, so here we go. He got this for us. Hold on. Okay. So Breakthrough Turtle is saying they got their turtles in the chat. They saying, "What up, B?" He say it's 12 on the East Coast. All right, now y'all capping. Come on now, it's not 12. We got 20 minutes till it's 12. And we here for the knowledge work and also. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yes, absolutely making sense. Okay, great, 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 great. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. He's saying how the spirit is letting you roll right now. Hilarious. Yes, 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 yes. Excellent. Okay, so let's get to Break the Turtle. What he talking about? Break the Turtle is saying you are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Amit Ray. Break the Turtle is saying you are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Oh, one more time. You are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Mm, mm. Almost like that idea we talked about at the top of the show. Once we are understanding that this awareness is the focal point, that our perceptions may be myriad as individual organisms, that's fine. But this awareness that is perceiving perceptions is itself common. And because that is who each of us truly is, you you don't need to fear death, for example. As I was talking about at the top of the show, because it would mean that all of us are coming with you. Like wherever you're going, we'll be there too. Wherever I'm going, you're gonna be there too. And even when it comes to our journey and our journey of living, our journey of being in human form, whatever goal we think that we're going to, that's finally going to make us happy, whatever role that we think is finally going to make us happy, or situation we think is finally going to make us happy, the role, the situation, the goal, each of those are temporary waypoints. They themselves come and go. But the one that experiences them is as much here now as it would be then when that then is now. You dig what I'm saying? Like it's as much here as it would be then, which means that the happiness, of course, that we assign to the achievement of the goal is as much here as it would be then. Mm. So that fear I was talking about at the top of the show, that thought, I don't want to die, at the top of the show, that I was saying I was experiencing because of the diagnosis from my great teacher. His situation made me think of my own. Break the Turtle is saying tonight, you are never alone. You are eternally connected with everyone. Mm. Break the Turtle, you never disappoint. Uh, Never disappoint. Holding that thought up to the light of choiceless awareness, it's like the death thought, the I don't want to die thought. Holding that thought up to the light of choiceless awareness, again, I see that it's just a thought. Its emotions get stripped away. But the awareness that notices that thought, the one that eternally connects each of us with each of us, it's like the very value of the death thought was to get us back to that place of wholeness. Maybe that's why, if fear is our only enemy, then we bring heaven to earth when we transform our minds. I'm Dr. Shawn, and we were not sent to impress our people. We were sent to transform our people into a light for the world. For God's universe opens to all who believe in breakthrough.